What inspires a master of horror? Junji Ito has cited many influences over the years, but one name comes up again and again: Kazuo Umezu. Written in the early 1970s, The Drifting Classroom helped define what horror manga could be, and its influence can be felt throughout Ito's work. Today, we're diving into Volume 1, where an ordinary school is thrown into an unthinkable nightmare. The Drifting Classroom opens with our narrator addressing his mother and his thoughts, telling her that when he looks back on the moment everything changed, everything before it feels strangely trivial. He finds himself nostalgic for the simplest things: trees, weeds, even the flies buzzing around the trash, and remembers them with unexpected fondness. He thinks back to the day before everything in his life changed forever. We learn to find out that our narrator is a 6th grade boy named Sho. He lives with his parents, and it's immediately clear that his relationship with his mother is far from perfect. Sho has a habit of getting into trouble, staying out late after dark, pulling pranks, typical childish behavior, and his mother's growing frustration with him is made very clear. On the morning before everything changes, Sho oversleeps. His alarm clock should have gone off, but it never seems to wake him. He rushes downstairs to find his mother in the kitchen. Already angry, Sho demands to know why she didn't wake him up. To his surprise, his mother calmly tells him that he's right. She did hear the alarm go off and knew he wasn't waking up. She tells him that it's time that he starts growing up and taking responsibility for himself. The argument continues to escalate until Sho finally reaches his breaking point. He screams that he wishes she was not his mother and storms out the door to go to school. In a moment that's hard to ignore, his mother shouts back that she wishes that he was not her son. As Sho runs towards school, he's relieved to discover that he's not the only one running late. He runs into his close friend, Shinichi, and the two realize that if they hurry, they can still make it on time with about 10 minutes to spare. Unfortunately, Shinichi quickly realizes that there's a problem. He forgot his lunch money. The two debate whether it's worth turning back, but Shinichi ultimately decides he can't miss lunch and heads home, while Sho continues on alone toward the school. We follow Shinichi's perspective as he heads back home, when suddenly he's stopped in his tracks by an earth-shattering booming sound. To say that the sound is loud is an understatement. It shakes the town like a massive earthquake. Windows crack, signs collapse, and even concrete fractures. As Shinichi pulls himself up, he sees the school sign thrown nearby, despite the school itself being miles away. Frozen with fear, Shinichi realizes something is terribly wrong. Thinking only of his friend, he sprints towards the school as fast as he can, but when he arrives, what he sees leaves him completely speechless. We see the boy standing next to a massive pit where the school once stood. Like a gigantic quarry, there is nothing left behind. No rubble, no wreckage. The school didn't explode. It's as if the entire grounds was transported out of this world and into another one entirely. The perspective shifts again to Sho's mother, who felt the shockwave all the way from her home. She doesn't yet know what happened at the school, but instinctively calls to check on Sho. There's no answer. She notices a growing commotion outside, crowds of people sprinting toward the school. She quickly learns that the explosion came from that direction, and without hesitation, she joins the crowd, desperate to find her son. The story shifts back to Sho, shortly after he parted ways with Shinichi. We see that he arrived at school safely, and right on time. At first, everything seems completely normal. Sho lines up for morning assembly, then heads to his first class, but before long, something begins to feel off. As the teacher continues the lesson, Sho becomes aware of a strange sensation. At first it's subtle, easy to dismiss, but soon it's impossible to ignore. Sho stands up and tells the class that he feels the building moving. The classroom falls silent as everyone listens. That's when they notice it, the chalk beneath the chalkboard shaking. Slowly at first, then more violently with every passing second. The trembling erupts into what feels like a full-scale earthquake. Desks slam from side to side as students scream and cling to anything that they can, convinced that the building is about to collapse around them. After a few terrifying minutes, the shaking finally stops. Miraculously, the building remains standing. The teacher restores order and attempts to continue the lesson as if nothing happened. That is, until a blood-curdling scream pierces the air outside the classroom window. Looking outside, they see another teacher collapsed on the ground. Sho's teacher rushes out to help, leaving the students alone. From the window, the class watches helplessly as more staff gather near the school's front gate. Sho, unable to sit still, and true to his reputation as a troublemaker, sneaks out of the classroom to see what is happening for himself. But nothing could have prepared him for what he is about to witness. As far as the eye can see, stretches an endless wasteland of sand and rock. It's as if the school has been transported to another planet. There's no sign of life anywhere. Sho can only stare into the abyss, mouth open, eyes wide, as he realizes he has entered a living hell. I want to take a moment to reflect on this opening. The story does an excellent job of establishing Sho as immature, reckless, and emotionally volatile, while intermittently cutting to his future self, speaking through inner monologue filled with regret and guilt as he addresses his mother. As readers, we immediately understand that something devastating must be coming, something powerful enough to force this impulsive child into reflection and remorse. We just don't know yet what that event is, or how far the consequences will go. Sho rushes back into the classroom, desperately trying to explain what he saw at the gates, an endless desert stretching out in every direction. At first, the other kids don't believe him, but when they finally look out the window for themselves, the truth is impossible to deny. The students climb up to the school's rooftop to get a clearer view, hoping maybe Sho was mistaken. Instead, all they see is more of the same, sand and rock reaching toward the horizon, an alien wasteland with no sign of life anywhere. This is the first moment where something happens that we'll see again and again throughout the story. Panic begins to creep in and take control. Kids start screaming. One young student breaks down, sobbing and crying for their mother. Overwhelmed by fear, the child completely loses control. In a moment of raw panic, they climb over the fence on the roof and fall to their death below. Chaos erupts almost immediately. The students rush into the courtyard and surge toward the school's front gate, desperate to escape. The teachers step in, physically blocking the exit, insisting that it's too dangerous to leave. But panic spreads again, this time to the adults. The teachers begin striking the students, slapping and hitting them in attempts to force them back and to restore order. Up until now, the story had moments of levity and childhood mischief, but that tone is completely gone. Students and teachers alike are knocked down in the chaos, trampled underfoot as fear turns violent, and then the situation escalates even further. One of the teachers grabs a student and snaps her glasses, taking a sharp shard of broken glass and stabbing the child in the arm. Blood spills as the boy screams. The teacher threatens to hurt him and anyone else if the students don't calm down. Eventually, the teachers manage to regain some control, and the immediate violence dies down. Amid all of this, Sho quietly stands out. Surprisingly, he remains one of the most calm and rational people in the school. He realizes that if anyone in the outside world can help them, it has to start with communication. With that in mind, Sho rushes toward the teacher's lounge, hoping the phones might still work, and hoping that he can reach his mother. Sho reaches the phone first, desperately trying to contact the outside world, but the line is completely dead. No ringing, no sound, nothing at all, just silence. The same is true for everything else. The television shows nothing, not even static. A teacher attempts to use a transistor radio, but no matter how they tune it, there's no signal whatsoever. The adults begin to panic. Their fear isn't that they've been transported somewhere else. It's worse than that. Many of them believe that the world outside may no longer exist at all, that it's been wiped out by some massive catastrophe, bombs, war, the end of everything they know. Eventually, shock gives way to practicality. The teachers decide to light a tree on fire on top of the rooftop, hoping the smoke might be seen as a distress signal. At the same time, their focus shifts to calming the students down and assessing their remaining supplies. Food and water suddenly become very real concerns. Privately, the teachers understand how dire the situation truly is, but trying to maintain order, they gather the students in the gymnasium and do something deeply unsettling. They lie. They tell the children they've made contact with the outside world through the radio. Sho, having seen the truth himself, knows that this is not real. The teachers explain that they may be stuck here for a few days, but insist that staying calm and obeying instructions is the most important thing. After that announcement, the students are told to return quietly to their classrooms. As Sho's class makes their way back, they hear cries for help. In another room, one of the teachers has been overpowered and tied up by her own students. The reason quickly becomes clear. One of the children intends to flee the school. The group rushes towards the front gate, just in time to see a young third grader crossing the threshold and stepping out into the unknown wasteland beyond. The boy is revealed to be the younger brother of one of Sho's classmates, Saki. She begs him to stop, screaming for him to come back, but the boy refuses. He pushes forward, insisting that he's going home. Only seconds later, the boy collapses. He falls face first into the sand, dead. No one understands what killed him, but the message is clear. Whatever lies beyond the school grounds is instantly fatal. No one dares to follow him. Sho can only think of his mother, tears welling in his eyes. Eventually, the students return to their classrooms. The weight of everything that has happened finally catches up to Sho, and he begins to crack emotionally under the trauma of the day. Sensing this, the teacher gently suggests he step away for a moment and gather the class's lunches in their cafeteria. Along the way, Sho is joined by students from other classes doing the same task. They share a terrifying rumor that food and water are already running low, and that starvation may be inevitable. The small group reaches the cafeteria and opens the door. On the floor, inexplicably, lies a single loaf of bread. One of the children instinctively reaches down to pick it up. In the next instant, the illusion of safety shatters again. A sharp metal rod is driven straight through the boy's hand, pinning it to the floor. He screams in agony, blood spilling as the others watch in horror. We're finally shown the assailant. It's the school's lunchman that has stabbed this innocent child through the hand. He turns on the other students, violently assaulting them as he screams that the food belongs to him and him alone. He rants that no one has ever respected him, and that he's always been ignored and walked over, and that he's done letting people take care of him. The children attempt to flee in panic, but one girl stumbles behind. The lunchman grabs her and holds her tight, taking her hostage to keep the others at bay. To say the lunchman has lost his mind is a complete understatement. Sho manages to alert the remaining teachers, who rush towards the storage room where the man has barricaded himself. They shout demands for him to open the door, unaware that he is pouring oil along the floor on the other side. The oil quietly seeps out beneath the door, pooling at the teacher's feet. In an instant, he lights the oil. Flames erupt, engulfing the teacher standing outside. Many are burned alive. Others are severely injured. Only a handful manage to survive the attack. Horrified by what they've just witnessed, the students finally come to a terrifying realization. No one is coming to save them. They gather together and decide that if they want to survive, they'll need to act on their own. They resolve to rescue their classmate and stop the lunchman themselves. As they quietly make their way toward the storage room, something unsettling becomes clear. It's pitch black outside, despite the fact that it should be mid-afternoon. The world beyond the windows looks like night. The story subtly reminds us that while there is a very human hell unfolding inside of the school, there's an even greater and more mysterious hell awaiting outside, one that they don't understand. Then, in an almost surreal moment, one that feels disturbingly divine, the kids discover a loaded gun lying on the ground. With no other options left, they decide to take it with them to confront the lunchman. They open the door to the storage room with the gun drawn. Inside, they see the girl tied up, alive, but the lunchman is nowhere in sight. Before they can react, he steps out from the shadows, gripping a large knife. Without hesitation, he plunges the blade into the back of the boy holding the gun. The child collapses, dead, and the lunchman takes the weapon. What follows is pure chaos. The students attempt to overpower him and fail. Gunshots ring out as several children are gunned down. Amidst the panic, some manage to escape, and mercifully, the hostage is rescued. The survivors make it back to their classroom. For a brief moment, there's something resembling good news. Sho managed to steal a piece of bread and 1 carton of milk during the chaos, but the relief quickly curdles into dread. They realize that this act has marked Sho as a target. The lunchman will be coming for him. Suddenly, the class is interrupted by a strange sound outside the window. It looks like a child playing, but that can't be right. Sho looks outside, and immediately he sprints toward the noise. Outside, unbelievably, is a small toddler named Yu, a child from Sho's neighborhood. He must have been near the school when it was transported, and what's truly shocking isn't that Yu is alive, but what he's playing with. Sho can barely process what he's seeing. Yu is playing with the school sign, the same sign that Shinichi had previously seen blown miles away. But this sign is different. It's rusted, ancient, as if it's been sitting in this wasteland for years. Now at this point, the story is doing an incredible job at steadily escalating the stakes. There's a constant back and forth between chaos and attempts at order, moments where structure almost returns only to collapse again. The teacher's desperate efforts to maintain calm while being utterly terrified themselves feels painfully believable. And while many of the choices made here are horrifying, they're also understandable in a way. Desperate for answers, Sho demands that Yu tells him where he found the school sign, but Yu is barely holding it together himself. He's starving, overwhelmed, and frightened. All he can manage to say is that he found it buried in the sand before breaking down completely. Seeing this, Sho gently brings him back inside of the classroom. Inside, the situation is grim. None of the children have eaten in over a full day. Everyone's stomach is empty, and yet, without hesitation, they make a quiet, selfless decision. Yu is allowed to drink all of the milk and eat all of the bread on his own. Once again, the children show more humanity and compassion than the adults ever did. Then, something remarkable happens. A wave of optimism washes over the room. One by one, students remember small snacks tucked away in pockets and backpacks. Candy, crackers, crumbs of normalcy. They gather everything together, carefully pooling it so that it can be shared fairly amongst everybody. The good news continues. One of the students manages to start a fire by rubbing pencils together. Against all odds, cooperation replaces panic. For the first time since arriving in this wasteland, the children feel like they might actually survive, if only for a little while. That fragile sense of hope is shattered by a sudden knock at the door. A severely injured 5th grader stumbles into the room, collapsing onto the floor. Through tears and pain, he tells them the truth. The lunchman is torturing his class. He barely managed to escape. The boy explains that the lunchman has been moving from classroom to classroom, demanding that each group hand over whatever food they have left. Refusal is met with brutal punishment. What follows is one of the most intense sequences in the volume. Sho and his classmates fall silent, straining to listen. From down the hall, they can hear muffled screams, followed by laughter. Then, more screams. Slowly, methodically, the sounds grow closer, one classroom at a time. The tension tightens as they remember something even more frightening. The lunchman has a personal hatred for Sho, for the food that he stole. Sho may be terrified, but this time, he refuses to go quietly. In this moment, we see just how much Sho has already changed. Without panic, without hesitation, he steps into a leadership role. Quickly, he organizes the class, barricading the doors, assigning roles, quietly preparing everyone for what's coming. There's no hero speech, just resolve. And now, they wait. A bank slams against the door. The barricade holds, barely. The lunchman screams at them to open up. Another bang, and another. With a final crash, the door gives way. The children explode from the shadows all at once. They claw, kick, scratch, fighting with everything that they have. It's messy, it's terrified, it's desperate. But somehow, against all odds, it works. United, the children overpower the lunchman and beat him into unconsciousness. Working together, they tie him tightly, making sure that he can't escape. They lock the lunchman inside a locker, turning it into a makeshift prison. The remaining teachers are freed, food is retrieved, and at long last, the children are able to sit down and eat together. In a moment of reflection, Sho thinks about his mother once again, and wishes that he had told her how much he truly loved her cooking. One of the most human moments in the story follows. After eating, every child collapses into sleep almost instantly. Exhausted, traumatized, finally allowed to rest. For just a moment, they're not survivors, they're children again. But peace won't last. When Sho wakes up, something is wrong. This wasn't a dream. Yu stands nearby and tells him to look outside at the sun. Something about it is not right at all. Sho looks up and realizes what's happening. A solar eclipse. Under normal circumstances, this wouldn't be frightening at all, but something is deeply wrong. The children know without a doubt that there was no eclipse scheduled for today. The realization leads the group to a chilling conclusion. It wasn't missiles, it wasn't a global catastrophe that destroyed the world around them. Instead, it was the school itself that moved, dragging everyone inside along with it. They haven't survived the end of the world. They've been taken somewhere else entirely. Sho asks Yu to lead the children to the place where he found the rusted school sign. Sho believes that it may hold answers. Yu guides them beyond the school grounds, and to everyone's shock, they don't die like the boy who collapsed earlier. Whatever killed him must not have been crossing the boundary itself. His death was a horrifying coincidence. Not far from where the sign was found, the children discover a massive stone monument, words carved deep into its surface, a memorial honoring 862 people lost in the elementary school incident. The implication is instant and it is unbearable. This memorial wasn't built for strangers, it was built for them. The children realize that they aren't lost in space, they're standing in the future. As they examine the monument more closely, the truth becomes even more brutal. One by one, they find their own names carved into the stone. Panic erupts, children scream, they sob uncontrollably. The certainty of their fate crashes down on them all at once. The perspective shifts back to the teachers, watching the eclipse in silence. If the children are terrified, the adults are unraveling. The weight of the situation drives several of them past their breaking point. The principal bursts out into uncontrollable laughter, a grotesque, manic sound. Another teacher takes his own life. Sho's gentle homeroom teacher, named Wakahara, collapses to the ground, his hand shaking violently. He begs the other teachers to restrain him, to tie him up immediately. No one understands why, and his pleas are dismissed. The reason soon becomes horrifyingly clear. While the children are away from the school grounds, Wakahara suffers a complete psychological break. One by one, he strangles every remaining teacher, and when it's over, he stands alone. When the children return, they find Wakahara as the sole survivor, and they're horrified by the scene. Calmly, he tells them a devastating lie, that the teachers took their own lives. The children believe him. Why wouldn't they? Wakahara has always been kind, gentle, and patient. They follow him back inside the school. Only one person knows the truth. The lunchman, trapped inside of his locker, witnessed everything. He screams a warning, but the children refuse to listen. To them, he's beyond redemption. Together, the children and Wakahara bury the dead. Makeshift memorials are erected. Tears are shed. Wakahara promises to become their caretaker, a father figure who will protect them and guide them through what comes next. But Wakahara is already steering them toward a dangerous future. He tells the children that staying put means death, that water and food will soon run out. To survive, he insists someone must venture into the wasteland. He proposes using one of the school's cars to explore the desert. When he asks for volunteers, Sho and several other students step forward. The group drives out into the wasteland, but no matter how far they go, the scenery never changes. Endless sand stretches in every direction. At one point, they come across what appears to have once been a river, now completely dry. Whatever this world is, it hasn't known life for a very long time. The children eventually exit the vehicle and explore on foot, spreading out slightly as they search for anything. Answers, shelter, signs of survival. As Sho wanders away, he discovers something horrifying. One of the other boys from their group lying on the ground with a plastic bag pulled tight over his face, on the brink of suffocation. Sho reacts instantly, ripping the bag away and saving the boy's life just in time. The child survives, but barely. Desperate for answer, Sho demands to know who did this. Through gasping breaths, the boy reveals the truth that they've all been refusing to see. Wakahara is not their protector. He isn't their teacher anymore. He is completely insane. Suddenly, Wakahara notices the commotion and bolts towards the car. Instinctively, the children run after him, terrified that he intends to abandon them, to leave them stranded in the desert to die. But the reality of Wakahara's plan is far worse. He turns the car around, revs the engine, and it becomes horrifyingly clear. He doesn't plan to flee, he plans to kill them. The children scatter, running in every direction. Wakahara drives after them like a hunter mowing down livestock, slamming into the fleeing kids one by one. The desert offers no cover, no escape, only distance, and not enough of it. Amid all of this chaos, one detail stands out. While survival instincts take over everyone else, Sho keeps stopping. Again and again, he turns back to help a younger girl whose leg is injured. Even now, even here, Sho refuses to only think of himself. Eventually, Wakahara locks onto Sho and the girl. They hear the roar of the engine growing louder behind them. Just as exhaustion threatens to overtake them, they spot something ahead. A cave entrance, narrow enough that the car could not fit inside of it. With the last reserves of their strength, they dive inside moments before being run down. Inside the cave, everything goes black. For a brief moment they're safe, but only briefly. From behind them, they can hear footsteps echoing closer. Wakahara has abandoned the car. Now, he's hunting them on foot. The children scramble blindly through the darkness, desperate to stay ahead of their predator. Just when it feels like there's nowhere left to go, they spot it, light up ahead, an exit. The children rush towards it, not knowing what awaits them on the other side. When they emerge into the daylight, the sight before them is almost impossible to comprehend. They aren't at ground level at all. They're standing hundreds of feet in the air, on the upper floors of a towering skyscraper. Before Sho can even process what he's seen, a sound echoes behind him in the cave. It's too late. Wakahara emerges from the shadows, reaches out with cold, inhuman hands, and begins strangling the life out of Sho. As Wakahara's hands tighten around Sho's throat, he slips closer and closer to unconsciousness. On the brink of death, with no strength left to fight back, Sho can do nothing but cry out for his mother, the one person he longs for in what he believes might be his final moments. The story suddenly cuts away. We return to Sho's mother, standing exactly where we last saw her, at the site where the school once stood. Now, all that remains is a massive, empty pit in the ground. She screams her son's name into the void, her voice echoing back, unanswered. Time passes. Through television news reports playing in her home, the world attempts to make sense of the tragedy. Witnesses near the school confirm the same impossible detail. One moment the building was there, the next, it was simply gone. The broadcasts speculate endlessly. Authorities float explanations: a collapsed mine, a forgotten weapon from a past war, a gas explosion. But none of these theories answer the most disturbing question of all. Why has not a single fragment of the school ever been recovered? Sho's mother is utterly shattered by her loss. She stops eating, she can't sleep, she breaks down repeatedly, consumed by guilt. She sobs about the argument that she had with her son, about the words that she wishes she could take back, replaying them endlessly in her mind. Suddenly, her sobbing is interrupted by the ring of the telephone. Instinctively, she rushes to answer it. The sound on the other end steals the air from her lungs. Through the line, she hears Sho's voice, her son, crying out to her. Sho's mother is nearly undone by what she hears. Tears stream down her face as she frantically asks Sho if he is safe and where he is. In the chaos, Sho's father takes the phone from her, only to realize the painful truth. It isn't Sho on the line at all. It's Shinichi's mother. Sho's mother snatches the phone back, desperate to not be wrong. She is hysterical, screaming Sho's name into the receiver, completely unable to understand what's happening. The voice Sho's mother heard wasn't real, or at least, not in the way that she thought. Eventually, she convinces herself that it must have been a hallucination, her mind breaking under grief. But the despair does not fade. That night, she lies awake in bed, trembling, her thoughts looping endlessly around her missing son. Then, in the dead silence of night, she hears it again, a blood-curdling scream. Sho's voice. He's begging for his mother to help him. She leaps from the bed without hesitation. Logic is gone, only instinct remains. Following the sound of Sho's voice, she rushes out of the house, flags down a cab, and commands the driver to take her in the direction the voice is coming from. The cab drives for miles until it finally slows near the source of the sound, a massive skyscraper hotel, the same type of building we saw Sho trapped in the distant future. Sho's mother rides the elevator to a high floor and bursts into the room where she hears her son crying, only to shock two unsuspecting hotel guests staying there for the night. Security is called. Several people are needed to restrain her and remove her from the room. And even as she's dragged away, she continues to hear Sho's voice, crying out as if he's standing right beside her. She found the right place, but at the wrong time. When she finally returns home, the voices stop, but she's certain of one thing. Her son needs her help, and somehow, some way, she believes that there's still something she can do. She goes into Sho's bedroom and retrieves his knife from the desk drawer. She doesn't fully understand why, only that she knows that this is what he needs. She begins forming a plan. Disguising herself, she returns to the hotel and books the very same room she broke into the night before. Inside, she drills a hole into the wall, carefully wrapping the knife in plastic to prevent it from rusting, and seals it inside of the concrete. She doesn't understand how this will help, only that something deep inside her tells her that this is the right thing to do. The story cuts back to Sho, still locked in Wakahara's grip, as the last of his strength fades. His hands grope blindly along the wall in a desperate search for anything that might save him. And suddenly, his fingers close in on something familiar, the unmistakable hilt of his knife. In one fluid motion, Sho drives the blade into Wakahara's throat. Caught completely off guard, the teacher stumbles forward and falls from the skyscraper to his death far below. Sho has no idea how his knife ended up there. Nothing about this world makes sense anymore. But for now, he and the girl are alive, and that's enough. Together, they begin the long journey back across the desert toward the school. Somehow, against all odds, they survive, and eventually see it looming in the distance. But something is terribly wrong. As they approach, Saki runs out screaming at them, her face twisted in terror. She begs them not to go inside, sobbing that they're going to be killed. Sho tries to understand her words, but she can barely speak. Confused and afraid, he continues into the schoolyard, and then he sees it. A fellow classmate, badly injured, barely breathing, tied to a cross, suffering in unimaginable agony. Before Sho can even understand what he's witnessing, his classmates grab his attention. They pull him away and hurry into a locked room, desperate to explain what's happening. They tell Sho that after he left the school, a group of younger students splintered off, children driven by desperation and fear. These kids became convinced of something horrifying, that killing the injured boy would appease whatever force controls this world, and that it would make it rain. Sho is still trying to process what he's hearing when he sees it for himself. The group has already begun their plan. The bound child is set ablaze, screaming as flames climb higher. Belief has turned into ritual. Sho doesn't hesitate. He remembers something critical. The school pool is still full of water. Sprinting into action, he grabs a bucket, douses the fire, and saves the boy's life. At the same time, he calms the panicked children, assuring them that they don't need sacrifices to survive, that the world does not demand blood. This moment makes something painfully clear. Sho is once again the only person capable of restoring order. He was gone for just a few days, and in his absence, the students nearly murdered one another. Within minutes of his return, he stops an execution, discovers hundreds of gallons of water, and uncovers a stockpile of canned food. Survival does not require violence, it requires leadership. Sho gathers the entire school in the gymnasium to finally make himself heard. He speaks plainly, without drama. He tells them that everything they have now is precious: water, food, life itself, and that reckless behavior and childish cruelty will destroy them faster than the wasteland ever could. The students listen, and then something remarkable happens. They rally behind him. A plan is formed. Resources are carefully rationed. Roles are assigned. That night, for safety, the entire school sleeps together in the gymnasium. For the first time in a long while, there's a fragile sense of stability. Order has been restored. Then, in the darkness, a sound cuts through the silence. A slow, deliberate rattling. Someone pulling at the front gate from the outside. The rattling at the gate is revealed to be one of the boys who left with Sho on the Wakahara expedition. Everyone believed that he was killed by the car, but somehow, against all odds, he survived. He's barely conscious, badly injured, unable to speak. In his trembling hand, he clutches something completely unexpected: a vibrant green leaf. The sight of it throws the entire school into chaos. The students crowd around him, frantically asking where he found it, what it means, or whether it could save them. But before he can answer even one question, the boy dies. The perspective shifts. We see the lunchman inside of his makeshift cell, calmly speaking to his small child from behind the bars. His voice is soft, reassuring. He gently asks the boy to hand him a paperclip lying nearby. It's harmless enough, and the child is far too young to sense the danger. It was a fatal mistake. The lunchman has been manipulating the boy the entire time. With the paperclip, he picks the lock of his cell and frees himself. One of the greatest threats in this story has returned, angrier and far more unrestrained than ever. The lunchman announces his escape with immediate violence. Before anyone can react, he has a knife pressed against Yu's throat, using the child as a hostage. Worse still, he heard about the green leaf, and he's obsessed with finding its source. At knife point, he forces a small group of boys, including Sho, to follow him out into the wasteland, marching them into the desert in pursuit of the rumored garden. After hours of wandering through the endless sand, they stumble upon something impossible: a bizarre, alien garden filled with strange plants unlike anything they've ever seen. The lunchman immediately turns brutal. He beats the children and forces them to eat the plants, using them as test subjects to see if the foliage is poisonous. And in a cruel twist, the plants aren't poisonous at all. They dissolve into sand as soon as they're consumed. Suddenly, the ground trembles. A massive crunching sound echoes through the wasteland, something far too large to be natural. The children look up to see a towering centipede, monstrous in size, emerging from the environment itself. True to who he is, the lunchman acts without hesitation. He knocks Sho unconscious and leaves him behind, believing the centipede will stop to devour him while the others can flee. It becomes clear almost immediately that the monster is not distracted. It continues its pursuit, closing the distance with terrifying speed as panic spreads through the group. One by one, children fall behind, collapsing from exhaustion, injury, or fear. Those who can't keep up are left to face the monster alone. Fighting back proves hopeless. One boy is hurtled 30 feet into the air, only to be caught mid-fall in the centipede's mouth, swallowed in a single, effortless motion. In the end, only 2 children make it back to the school. One of them carries you on his back the entire way. When they finally return, the boy collapses in tears, barely able to speak as he tells the others the truth. Everyone else was killed by the monster. With Sho gone, a power vacuum forms almost immediately. Into the void steps an older female student who quickly asserts control over the school. The others begin referring to her as the princess. From the start, her rule is enforced through fear. She maintains order not through cooperation or trust, but through open violence, publicly beating anyone who questions her authority. The princess doesn't merely replace Sho as a leader, she actively works to destroy his reputation. She labels him a coward, claims that he abandoned them, and blames him entirely for their suffering that they've all endured. Sho isn't just gone, he's been rewritten as a villain. When Saki attempts to defend Sho, she immediately is punished. The princess attacks her in front of everyone, using the beating as a warning to anyone else who might challenge her narrative. The princess soon announces a shocking accusation. Someone has stolen food from the supply. Conveniently, the culprit left behind a shoe, supposedly proving their guilt. One by one, the students are forced to try on the shoe under the princess's watchful eye. It's a grotesque parody of justice. Then, without warning, a boy panics and makes a desperate break for the front gate. He reaches the gate, but then stops dead. Standing just outside of it is Sho. Somehow, against all odds, he has survived, and he is returned at the perfect time. Sho isn't alone. Nearly all of the boys that were taken into the desert survived, all but one. The lunchman, however, has suffered a complete psychological collapse. Once a monster, he now behaves like a confused child. Sho explains that after killing one of the boys, the centipede simply left them behind, uninterested in finishing the rest. Survival, once again, comes down to nothing but chance. The princess immediately moves to reaffirm her dominance. She attacks Sho, beating him in front of the others, proving that his return does not automatically restore order. Violence still governs this world. She resumes the trial. The accused boy is dragged forward and brutally assaulted, his bones broken one by one until he finally confesses. Whether he's guilty or not no longer matters. The trial is suddenly interrupted by a sound that cuts through the tension. Children crying. No protest, no panic. Simple, desperate, sobbing for their parents. Without any real order under the princess's rule, the youngest students, the first graders, have wandered onto the rooftop. Lost in fear and confusion, they cry out for their mothers and fathers. Then, in a horrifying display of delusion, they begin to jump from the roof, believing they can fly their way back home. Sho is shaken to his core. Through tears, he lifts the lifeless body of one of the fallen children and holds it up in front of his classmates. His voice breaks as he condemns everyone, shouting that when those in power fight amongst themselves, this is what happens. Innocents die. His words cut deep. Many students openly abandon the princess and return to Sho's side, but not everyone is convinced. Fear still holds some of them firmly in place. The arguing gives way to an uneasy realization. They need a leader. One. The students agree to hold an election, a brutal simplification of democracy under apocalyptic conditions. It comes down to a single choice: Sho or the princess. The vote is tense. Nearly half of the students side with the princess, not out of belief, but out of fear. Then, When the votes are counted, the results are unthinkable. A tie. Someone didn't vote. From the crowd, a small voice speaks up. It's you. He calmly says that he didn't vote yet, and that he chooses Sho. Relief and joy wash over Sho and his supporters. The princess refuses to accept the outcome. Along with her followers, she gathers her belongings and leaves the school, walking out into the wasteland. Their fate is unknown, but the choice is final. With Sho restored as leader, attention immediately shifts to the largest remaining threat, the centipede. If it returns, they'll be helpless. Sitting still is no longer an option. Sho once again proves himself as leader, not through force, but through organization. He assigns roles, recognizes individual strengths, and creates structure where chaos once ruled. In a remarkable feat of coordination, the students construct massive traps designed to kill the centipede if it returns. Among them is a horrifying centerpiece, a colossal spike suspended above a trigger. If the creature passes beneath it, it will be impaled and certainly die. For a brief moment, it feels like they're winning. Then, disaster strikes. A child accidentally trips the mechanism. The trap begins to fall. Without hesitation, Sho runs forward to save the child, risking his own life once again. For a horrifying moment, it looks like both boys caught in the trap accident have been killed. Panic grips the group, but miraculously, they're alive. Both survive. The relief is short-lived though. The trap they spent so long building can only be triggered once, and now it's useless. As if fate itself is mocking them, a scream rings out from the watchtower. A boy peers through binoculars, terror in his voice as he shouts the words that they were dreading. The centipede is coming, charging straight toward the school at full speed. Sho remains astonishingly calm. He doesn't dwell on the failed trap. There's no time for panic. He immediately commands the students to take the positions that they practice. Without question, everyone moves. Training kicks in. Order replaces fear. Despite their coordination, it quickly becomes clear how outmatched they are. Massive crossbows are fired, launching giant spears toward the monster, but the centipede snaps them apart like twigs. The weapons might as well be toys. Sho begins herding the students toward their safe zone. As they retreat, heavy metal doors are slammed shut behind them. Moments later, violent pounding echoes throughout the halls. They bought themselves time, but not much. Someone needs to stay behind. Sho's appointed Minister of Defense, once a troublemaker himself, steps forward without hesitation. He volunteers to face the monster alone if it means buying the others a few precious seconds. The group runs, and the boy keeps his promise. As the centipede crashes through the metal barrier, he charges forward, screaming, axe raised. The impact is brutal. The axe shatters uselessly against the creature's armored body. With terrifying ease, the centipede's crab-like claws snap shut around the boy's arm, severing it completely. The boy collapses in agony, but he does not give up. Gritting his teeth, he whispers to himself that he can still fight. In a completely badass moment, with one remaining hand, he grabs the axe from his arm lying on the ground. He charges again, utterly fearless. His only goal is to give his friends a little bit more time to escape, and he succeeds. Such a good moment. Sho and the others hear the chaos behind them. They know what's happening, and they know that they can't stop to help. If they hesitate now, everyone dies. Panic sets in again as they search desperately for a solution. Then, in a moment of clarity, someone realizes something crucial. Every child who survived the centipede in the desert was unconscious. Those who fought back were the ones that were killed. The answer is horrifying, but it's clear, and luckily, they're near the science room. They grab chloroform and rush to sedate the younger children before the monster can reach them. The plan works, partially. The younger students are rendered unconscious, but when the bottle runs empty, a new realization sets in. There isn't enough to put everyone out. The only chance left is unthinkable. The remaining conscious students believe they must empty their minds, suppress all panic, all thought, and become nothing. If the monster can't sense their presence, maybe it will pass them by. There's no time to discuss it. The centipede smashes through the barricade and floods into the hallway. The students who remain awake are forced to face their deepest fear, letting go. For those who manage it, it feels like a miracle. For those who cannot, the consequences are horrifying. Children are snatched up by enormous claws, ripped apart, and consumed alive by the unblinking terror rampaging through the school. When it's finally over, the survivors take stock. The centipede got into the food storage. Half of their supplies are gone. Sho rallies the remaining children. Hiding is no longer an option. They're just sitting ducks. They prepare to fight back. Armed with primitive weapons made of stone and sharpened sticks, the students march out into the desert, determined to hunt the monster before it hunts them again. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This is where Volume 1 of the Drifting Classroom comes to an end, but there are still 2 volumes left. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the story so far in the comments below, and whether you'd like to see me continue the rest of the story or not. I was pleasantly surprised. Endings are important, but as of right now, I'm absolutely in love with this story. And just to be clear, we're not done reading Junji Ito, not even close. We're still continuing the journey of reading every single Junji Ito story together, exactly like always. This was just a quick detour. If you enjoy this kind of horror analysis, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.